Hi Reddit, I'm sharing my story here. My name is Christopher Hale, 34, and I'm a financial advisor at a mid-sized investment company in Oregon. I've been married to my wife, Madeline, for 6 years, and we have a delightful 1-year-old son, Oliver. His first birthday was supposed to be a joyful milestone. Balloons, cake, family gathered around, maybe a little chaos with frosting everywhere. Instead, it became the moment I saw my parents' true colors and decided I was done shouldering their responsibilities. Growing up, I was the younger of 2 siblings. My sister, Rachel, 3 years my senior, was always the family's shining star. My childhood memories are filled with her spotlight moments, her dance recitals, her theater performances, her soccer games. My parents never missed a single one, arriving with bouquets, snapping photos, and boasting to anyone who'd listen about Rachel's brilliance. I, on the other hand, was an afterthought. When I consistently made the honor roll, they'd give a distracted nice work before asking Rachel about her latest practice. When I earned a partial scholarship to a prestigious college, they offered a quick pat on the back, then spent hours discussing Rachel's gap year to find herself. That was the dynamic my whole life. Rachel got praise, attention, and resources. I got overlooked or ignored. This favoritism didn't end with childhood. When Rachel married her husband, Mark, my parents spared no expense. They dropped $45,000 on a grand wedding, think chandeliers, a live band, and a guest list pushing 300. They took out loans to make it happen, insisting Rachel deserved a dream day. 2 years later, when Madeline and I tied the knot, they gave us $1,500 and said we should be thankful, as they were still paying off Rachel's extravaganza. Our wedding was a modest but beautiful affair in a garden with 60 guests. It was perfect in its simplicity, but the contrast stung. My parents left our reception early, claiming exhaustion. 6 years ago, my parents hit financial rock bottom. My dad, a former logistics supervisor, was laid off at 59 and struggled to find work he deemed suitable. My mom, a part-time school receptionist, had her hours slashed. They fell 3 months behind on their mortgage, with foreclosure looming. Rachel and Mark couldn't help. They had 2 kids, Sophie and Lucas, and were perpetually strapped for cash. Rachel hadn't worked in years, citing the demands of motherhood, and Mark's retail job barely covered their bills. So my parents turned to me. I'll never forget my dad's tears as he pleaded, saying they'd lose the house tied to all my childhood memories. Madeline and I were frugal, saving for our own home. Helping them would derail our plans, but after discussion, I agreed. I paid $9,000 to catch up their mortgage and offered to cover their $1,250 monthly payments, on the condition they cut expenses and find work. They promised they would. They didn't follow through. For 5 years, I funneled money into their home, over $85,000 in payments, plus taxes and maintenance. Meanwhile, my parents made no effort to change. My dad took a part-time job at a hardware store but quit, saying it was beneath him. My mom refused to seek extra hours. They continued dining out, taking weekend trips, and most galling, lavishing Rachel's kids with costly gifts and outings. When I suggested they budget better, my dad accused me of meddling. Yet Rachel remained their favorite. Holidays were always at her place. Babysitting? They were practically live-in nannies for Sophie and Lucas. Their social media was a shrine to Rachel's kids, captioned as the loves of our lives. When I shared that Madeline was pregnant, my mom said, "That's nice," then pivoted to talk about Lucas's daycare. When Oliver was born, my parents visited the hospital for 20 minutes, took one photo, and left to see Rachel. Over the next year, they saw him maybe 6 times, never staying long. They didn't babysit or engage with the photos we sent. Meanwhile, their social media overflowed with Sophie and Lucas, described as their precious grandchildren. Madeline pointed out the disparity, urging me to stop funding their lifestyle if they couldn't even acknowledge our son. But I clung to hope they'd change. For Oliver's first birthday, we planned a cozy party at home, balloons, cake, loved ones. I called my parents weeks in advance, emphasizing how much their presence meant. My mom was non-committal, saying they'd try to make it. When I pressed, she dodged. A week before, my dad called and said they wouldn't come. "It's just a first birthday, he won't remember," he said. When I asked what they were doing instead, he admitted they were going on a lake house trip with Rachel's family. That cut deep. They were choosing a vacation with Rachel's kids over Oliver's milestone. The party was joyful. Madeline's family showed up, friends brought gifts, Oliver giggled with cake in his hair. But my parents' absence left a void. That night, I checked their social media. My mom had posted a photo album from the lake house, captioned, Weekend escape with our darling Sophie and Lucas, our only treasures, so blessed by these wonderful grandkids. My hands trembled. Our only treasures, as if Oliver didn't exist. I showed Madeline and she said one word, "Enough." That night I calculated every cent I'd spent on their mortgage, taxes, and repairs, over $92,000. Money that could have gone to a home for us, to Oliver's future. Money I'd sacrificed for parents who dismissed my child. The next day, I contacted the bank and canceled all payments. 2 months later, foreclosure notices arrived at their door. By month 4, they were evicted. The house was gone. Now they call constantly, leaving voicemails about living in motels or crashing with friends, begging me to be family. But to them, family has always meant Rachel, her kids, her needs. For the first time, I'm prioritizing my family, Madeline and Oliver. My parents made their choice. They picked their only treasures. When I stopped the payments and their house was lost, I hoped they'd reflect on how they'd failed me, how they'd favored Rachel's kids while ignoring mine. Instead, they deflected. The voicemails piled up. "Chris, you're overreacting about one party. Don't be so harsh. You can't leave us homeless. We're your parents. We raised you. We clothed and fed you for years. Rachel can't help. You're our only hope." Madeline listened to a few and shook her head. Each message sidestepped their neglect of Oliver, framing me as the villain. When I didn't reply, my mom sent letters dripping with guilt. Oliver will grow up knowing his dad abandoned his own parents. Madeline ripped one in half, saying, "They don't deserve your energy." But it wasn't simple. Despite my anger, they were my parents, and part of me still longed for their validation. Then Rachel called, rare unless she wanted something. Her voice was syrupy. "Chris, think about helping Mom and Dad. Sophie misses her grandparents so much, it's breaking her heart." I bit back a laugh. Sophie and Lucas had their grandparents' devotion for years, while Oliver was erased. Where was their concern for him? Rachel sighed. "You're always so jealous of me. Let it go, they're old and made mistakes." I told her they weren't homeless because of me. They were homeless because they squandered money while I paid their way, choosing you over my son. She hung up, calling me selfish. We haven't spoken since. Weeks later, my parents showed up at our door looking worn. My dad's clothes were disheveled, his face unshaven. My mom's eyes were puffy. "We just want to see Oliver," she whispered. "He's our grandson." Oliver, playing in the living room, glanced up curiously. He didn't recognize them, they'd barely been in his life. Madeline blocked the door. "You had a year to care about him. You don't get to show up now because you're desperate." My dad snapped. "We're family, you can't shut us out." I stepped forward. "You lost that privilege when you called Rachel's kids your only treasures." My mom sobbed. My dad called me ungrateful and stormed off. Then came the fallout. Family friends called, saying my parents claimed I'd abandoned them. A cousin sent me a screenshot of my mom's Facebook post, portraying me as a cold son who valued money over family. I considered posting the truth, her only grandchildren caption, "The years of neglect," but Madeline stopped me. "Why bother? Focus on us, on Oliver." She was right. I let them cast me as the bad guy. In my home, with my family, I knew the reality. 6 months after cutting them off, Madeline and I bought our first house, a charming 2-story with a big yard for Oliver. Every dollar now went to our family, not to people who didn't value us. We took Oliver to the aquarium, started his college fund, and went on a small vacation, free of guilt. One evening after Oliver was asleep, Madeline and I sat on our porch with wine. She squeezed my hand. "You did it," she said. "You broke free." She was right. I'd spent years chasing approval from parents who favored Rachel. Now I was liberated. A year after stopping the payments, I got a final letter from my mom. It wasn't angry or manipulative, just hollow. She wrote that they were in a tiny rented apartment, barely getting by. Rachel rarely visited, too busy, and Sophie and Lucas hardly called. The last line read, "We should have treated you better, Chris. Is it too late?" I put the letter in a drawer and didn't reply. It was too late. My son, sleeping soundly, will grow up knowing he's enough. He'll never chase love from people who withhold it. He'll know his dad chose him first. That's worth everything. Thanks for watching. If you liked this story, leave a like, subscribe for more, and tap the bell icon so you're notified whenever a new story drops. See you next time.